Hi there, and welcome to another episode of Epic Filmmaking. My name is Anthony Epp. I want to talk to you about the concept of making a film for yourself first. A lot of people ask me, how do I get started? How do I start making films? Like, do I need to go to film school? Do I need to do this? What's the best story to tell in order to get funding, in order to get your film made? The first thing you should ask yourself is, what is the movie that I want to make for myself? I think when you begin with the idea that you're going to make something for yourself, then you will carry that passion and enthusiasm for making the film all the way from the beginning all the way through till the end, because there's going to be a lot of ups and downs along the way as you make your movie. And this can be a short film or a feature film or whatever length you're trying to do. But if you're trying to figure out what to make next, and you don't already have a project in mind, or you don't already have funding in mind, or you don't already have a hiring project in mind, my thought is that you should focus on finding a story that you are passionate about, or an idea that you're passionate about, and seeing how you can build your next project from there. If you are a first-time filmmaker or a long-term filmmaker, I think you should begin with the idea that my next project will be the one that I want to make that speaks to me. It's the movie that I want to see. It's kind of like scratching your own itch. Don't make a movie that you feel you should make, or that your peers are making, or that you see other people making around you and think to yourself, well, I should probably make something like that. I should make a drama movie. I should make a movie that speaks to a social issue, or I should make a movie that is a horror movie because horror movies sell, things like that. Those are all great, and if you really want to do that, you should do that. In fact, if that's your movie, that should be your movie. If you want to make a movie that addresses a social issue, then you should dive right into that, especially if that is a passion of yours. And in fact, if that was your first film, I would definitely dig all in on that. People say don't make your first film your passion project, and I think you go the opposite way, especially because you're going to be learning so much along the way. You need to have something to grab your own enthusiasm even when it's frustrating and difficult. I would rather work with a director and a writer who are passionate about the film that they are making. Just passionate about the film that they're making, and go from there, because I know that will carry them through from beginning to end. They won't be put off by having cast drop out, having money not available, losing resources, and so on, because they will be determined to make this film happen. How you make it happen is going to be a whole other story. That's the part where someone can come in and help you. So if you have an idea for something and you want to know if it can be made into a movie, that's where other people can help you to figure out the best course of action to make it happen. Now, you might not be able to make the next Marvel movie, but if you really have a passion for superhero movies, make something that you can make that's a superhero movie within the confines of the resources you have available to you. And this is actually how I made my first short film, and the short film was called Rainfall. I wanted to come up with this story of a bit of the anti-hero, and tell it while experimenting with how I was learning how to make films at the time. And if you ever watch that film, and I've got it on my YouTube channel, it's my first film. I mean, it is full of flaws. And I mean, your first films in many regards become your demo reel to start with, but they're also a part of your process of building your toolbox of what you know you can do. I know from there I learned that it was reasonably easy to do your own visual effects, and you'll notice that the visual effects in that film are not great, but they are a starting point. In fact, I used my knowledge of visual effects on that one to make my second short film, and I used my limited visual effects training to make something that was a little bit bigger for that film. So you see, each film builds upon itself. Make a film, take a look at it, go, what did I learn from that? And then push it on towards the next one. I would say that every film I've made as a director, producer, and writer has been a reflection of something that I was interested in. So for example, I made Rainfall, which was this sort of venture into making artsy movies and trying to work on my composition. So that film was like my discovery of filmmaking techniques and composition, and then Robotron was kind of an exploration of creating a somewhat sci-fi movie, which I liked. I wanted to make a sci-fi movie, so I made a sci-fi movie. And then my first feature was actually a documentary, and that was on hockey fighting because I'm a hockey fan. And then now the first featured narrative film is 13 Miles, which is about triathlon, which again, I was a triathlete. So all of these films have had some piece of things that I liked in them, which allows me in a way to never get lost in the why as to why I'm making the movie in the first place. Take the types of films that you like to watch. So what I would do is I would list off 3 films that you've watched that you wish you had directed or that you wish you had been part in making. That would have been the film you would have loved to have made. List off those 3 films and then start to look for the pieces of those films that spoke out to you. And the great thing about that is that you can get a little bit daring, especially if it's a film where your consequences, you're not, there's not an investment in your film. You're not earning. You're not, you're not playing with other people's money. Because then you can be quite extreme. You can go a little bit more daring, and that way you can also be a bit obsessive. You can treat yourself as the ultimate audience for your movie, like make the movie that you want to see. And I would argue that every single film we've made has been a movie that we wanted to see, which means we fight harder in the edit for certain things. We fight harder for music that we like. We fight harder for the cast and for the story to be told in a certain way as opposed to just trying to get through. The great thing about making the film that you want to see is that there is no competition for that film. Only you have your perspective. Only you have a story in your head that can be told from your point of view. The point is to say, like, this is what I really want to talk about. This is the images I want to portray. These are the emotions I want my audience to feel. And then you go from there, and you don't get cute and clever and try to show off. You just focus on, I have a passion for this story. And then you just tell it. And the great thing about that is that nothing you do will be cliche. Nothing you do will be cliche, because if it's your story, if you're passionate about it, you may draw from influences from other people, but the story that you want to tell will always have your stamp on it. Making a film when the consequences aren't this high means that you can make something that doesn't have to tread in that lukewarm water. You can really dive deep into the subject matter more because you have no one whose expectations you have to live up to. You just have to live up to your own expectations. Let me recap by saying, start with the idea that brings you the most passion and go from there. And you'll make films that inspire you and always will inspire other people. That's it for now, and I will see you tomorrow.